and we're a sponsor of Assembly Bill 2170. And basically, this is about honoring a contract. It's about the sanctity of a contract and keeping a promise. When folks sit down at that kitchen table and they plan out their budget and they choose a health plan for the very express purpose of what prescription drugs will be covered, they expect that promise will be kept throughout the contract year, and that they won't be blindsided in the middle of that contract year with increased prescription drug costs. And in some instances, then they're faced with the situation of is it clothing, shelter, utilities, food? Do I stop taking the drug? Do I take less of the drug? What will that do to my overall health care? So those are some of the serious consequences of the way the situation is now and why this legislation is in fact necessary. There's just two quick personal stories I'll relay. A woman, Randy Sandberg, who couldn't be here because she had a recent exacerbation of her MS. She was in a PPO and paying $100 for a 3-month prescription of her Avonex medication that keeps her active in the community and on the job. And then, without notice, she was told she's got to go to a $100 payment instead of for 3 months for 1 month. Okay, without notice. Then this happened again this year. Now it's $150 a month. She can't reorder in 3-month installments either, by the way. So she was on a flex benefit plan and unable to prepare by adding money to that plan. There's a woman, Andrea Hayes, with epilepsy who takes a medication that controls her seizures. It's a branded drug. In a letter dated January 16th of 2009, 1 month after she renewed her PPO, her insurer told her that they were going to increase her copay significantly if she didn't start taking the generic version of the drug. The insurer had covered it before, but now she would have to pay more out of pocket. Again, this was 17 days after she renewed her health insurance. That included prescription drugs. No warning prior to this change, just a letter 17 days after she could sign up for another policy to cover her needs. Now, she had done what she was supposed to do. She was responsible. She shopped for the plan. She purchased the plan. She signed the contract. And she paid her premiums. And the rules of the game were changed in the middle of the game. And she had no recourse. So though there's two real-life stories with, of course, real-life consequences, AB 2170 is an important consumer protection bill, and we urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support? Please identify yourself from the floor microphone.
Terry Farmer, volunteer with the MS Society and an MS patient who uses prescription injectable drugs. In support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, Ms. Capel, I missed you, but I didn't really miss you. I just preferred.
First things first.
Thank you.
Beth Capel for Health Access, also in support.
Thank you. Others in support?
Arvind Magasara, Northern California chapter of the Neuropathy Association, in support.
Hello, I'm Peggy Blair. I'm here today on behalf of my daughter, who's a school teacher in Santa Barbara and was just last August diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. This bill is very important to her. Thank you.
Teresa Stark with the California Medical Association, in support.
Andrew Governor on behalf of Bay Bio, the Northern California Life Science Association, in support.
Randy Hicks with the California Alliance Retired Americans, in strong support.
Thank you. Witnesses in opposition, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Nick Luizos with the California Association of Health Plans. We respectfully oppose the bill because it's one of the many bills introduced this year that we believe hinders our ability to offer incentives for the use of equivalent and cost-effective drug alternatives. The argument for 2170 is that it will protect enrollees from copay changes. And as the proponents stated in their testimony, an enrollee's share of cost for a drug can change when a medically equivalent and less expensive alternative, usually a generic, is made available and added to the formulary. These changes are made either for clinical or cost reasons. If the alternative or new additions to the formulary are utilized by the enrollees, their cost share will actually go down. And my member plans have reported to me that that is the case in the vast majority of situations. The overall benefit structure does not change in that scenario, only the incentive to use the less expensive pharmaceutical. And as a matter of practice, my members have told me that they do send notifications at least 30 days in advance of any tier changes for their drugs. The introduction of cost-efficient alternatives is not scheduled to coincide with the timing of each individual contract. In our view, it makes little sense to freeze the industry's ability to take advantage of market changes, because in some cases the difference between a brand name and its generic alternative can be very vast. For enrollees, that difference can mean up to $100 to $200 in savings per treatment cycle or more. A report this week by a major pharmacy benefit manager confirms that annually consumers in the United States are wasting about $163 billion due to the inefficient use of prescription drugs. $51 billion of that results in missed opportunities related to lower cost medication alternatives, both brand and generic. This bill will also result in increased administrative costs for our plans. When alternatives are introduced to the market or drugs go on or off the formulary, plans adjust their formulary at that time. They have no mechanism to link the renewal date for a group or member that would trigger the correct copayment to be applied at the end of the contract year. Doing this manually for each contract will be bureaucratic and expensive. In short, pharmaceuticals are expensive. We acknowledge that. And this is, however, this bill is another of a number of bills introduced this year to limit our plan's ability to balance those costs for the enrollees. And those are the reasons that we oppose the bill. We have met with the author and we appreciate those conversations, but the bill doesn't reflect our concerns at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Other witnesses in opposition?
Mr. Chair and members,